Hey, hi everyone. So we will start in let's say 4 or 5 minutes, right? Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, let me share the link with other candidates as well. Recording is on, I think, right? Can anyone confirm that? Yeah, I think yes. All right, guys. So I think the camera is little blur, but uh, doesn't matter. Let me share whiteboard or something. Mhm. So the basic agenda of this session is to make you guys more aware about what all things we need to cover in the static GK, right? And static GK is important part, right? A vast amount of knowledge is required when it comes to static GK, but we will decide the priority order so that we are not missing on the important stuff, right? And we will have more sessions in the upcoming weeks, specifically on the static GK. One by one, we will define in what order we have to cover the things and in which colleges the static GK is the most important part. For example, I know in baby IIMs, right, they ask you good number of questions for static GK, even in IIM Kozhikode and to an extent in IIM Lucknow and Indore, right? They can ask you some questions around your city, around your state, around your country, or around the world, right? And if you are not able to answer some of the basic questions, let's say you skip one or two questions, that's completely okay. But not answering 4 to 5 questions in line um, uh, puts a bad impression of you in front of panel, right? Okay, so let's start, right? So we will just see the right sequence. First is just imagine that this is your day zero on this earth or day one on this earth, right? So first you should know what your what's the meaning of your name, right? First you have to cover the meaning of your name, religion, and when you are reading about your religion, let's say you belong to Hindu, Sikh, right? So you should also know about the history of your religion, right? Or let's say the different kinds of religions which are there in India, right? And if you also know the percentage of each community, right? That would be like a cherry on cake, right? Then read more about your family, right? A lot of students come from business family. Right. Yeah, yeah. I think the session is getting recorded, so you will get the recording as well. Right. So a lot of you are coming from the business family, right? So just knowing about your father's shop is not sufficient, right? So let's say if your father is a cloth merchant or if your father has a shop of sweets, right? So you should know more about that industry as well, right? So you are not just talking about as a layman person, but you are really talking as a MBA aspirant. So you should know about the demand, you should know about the process, you should know about the raw material, right? Some basic knowledge about the process, about the raw material, about how things go, and then just Google or just GPT that what's going on in, let's say, cloth industry, right? So is India dealing with some other nation? Is India exporting or importing? What are the kind of fabrics we export? What are the kind of things we import, right? So just know well about that. So this is about your family, religion, and name. Then for sure you must have joined some school, right, in your young era, right? So just read. So a lot of school names starts with some specific kind of acronym. For example, DSP, right? So DSP in itself is a big name, right? The network is so big, so you should know about the network. You should know more about, for example, if you're coming from a very famous school, who started it, what was the mission. For example, my school name is Swami Keshwanand Memorial Public School, right? So who is Swami Keshwanand, right? And you should know more about his work, right? His death anniversary, right? His birth anniversary. So a lot of questions that you can think about. The most efficient way to learn about static GK is just go to the Wikipedia, right? If you just cover the Wikipedia page about one city or one person, I think in most of the cases you will get good knowledge about what you are searching for, right? So once you are sorted with the school, right, read more about your city, right? So if you are coming from, let's say, any tier of city, one, two, three, four, five, or even a village, right, know good and bad things about your city, right? Second is, if your city is famous, right, or when was your city founded by someone, right? Just go to the Wikipedia, you will find a lot of relevant details, right, about the prominent personalities that born there, that come out of that city, and what's the significance of your city, right? I have seen a lot of candidates don't know anything about the MLA, right, or let's say the chairperson of their area or their city, right? So at least have some basic knowledge about that. When it then it comes to state, I think every state is very unique in India, right? Every state has its own culture, its own dance form, its own language, right? Its own cuisine, its own festivals, right? So you should know everything around your state, right? Here again, I would suggest you to find five problems that are there in your states along with the solutions, plus let's say five six good things, right? So five six good things along with the problem, right? Then when it comes to state, you should know the political history of your state, right? Political history of the state. Then I would say cabinet of the state, right? Cabinet may there will be a lot of ministers, but I think CM is something which is obvious, but still, when I interview candidates, I find a lot of candidates don't even know the CM name, right? So obviously, read the CM name, read more about governor, how it is elected, different duties and responsibilities of CM and governor. Also know about education minister or any other minister if you want to. After that, political history is covered, cabinet is covered, then I think you should also know about the area of your state. Why I'm considering the area? Because I come from Rajasthan. So Rajasthan is, let's say, the largest state, right? So when I say the largest state, I should also know the next biggest state, and let's say the state which is at third or fourth position, and how much is the difference, right? After that, I think you should also know some key facts around your state. For example, the GDP of your state. For example, if I do you does anyone know which state has the largest share in the GDP?
Maharashtra.
Yeah, Maharashtra is the answer, right? So you should also know the GDP of your state, or from which area the major contribution is coming. For example, I think When it comes to Rajasthan, Rajasthan is the largest producer of tobacco, right? Tobacco and I think some kind of milk as well, right? So GDP, then I would say literacy rate, right? Cover that. So just create a Google Doc of all these things. And if you just read every day for 5 minutes, right, after 5 to 10 days, all these things will be on your fingers, right? So literacy rate, you can say death rate in case you want to know. What else? I think death rate, literacy rate, mm, huh, sex ratio, that is important again. That these kind of things depend from state to state. For example, if you are coming to Haryana, right, sex ratio is something which you should be aware about, right? Then literacy rate again, when if you are coming from Bihar, right, I think you should know what is the literacy rate. If you are coming from Kerala, then also literacy rate is important, right? And I think the political history is the most important, right? In case the discussion goes uh, onto that side, you should be able to continue the discussion, right? So what happens when you are asked static GK questions? You have two choices, or I would say interviewers has two choices, right? Either they expect an answer from you, and then they may continue the discussion, right? For example, if I say uh, Rajasthan is the largest producer of tobacco, right? Then if I answer this question, then only I will get into the detailed discussion. And this detailed discussion is always easier to handle compared to the static GK one-liner questions, right? But if I say that I don't know, then the interviewers will not have any choice and they will move to some very generic questions. Let's say what you did during your graduation, what kind of work you do, XYZ things, right? So if you are really well aware about static facts, right, then this always puts a good impression of yours in front of panel, right? So so far we are still in the school time, and school time may what else you should know? I think state this most probably. Uh, so now when you are transitioning from school to college, first thing you should know is your college name, right? A lot of students don't even know uh, what's the inspiration or what's the reason behind their particular college name. For example, if you just explore the colleges of Delhi, or I would say Delhi University, right? So you should know why my college is named as Hindu College, why someone's college is named as Hansraj College, right? What is Dolatram College? So if you're saying I belong to Hindu College, I belong to Dolatram College, and if you don't know how they came up with this name, right? No negative points if you don't know, but there will be a lot of brownie points if you can just explain for 30 seconds how the college got that name, right? So there is always an interesting story. It's 99% chance is there that it will be there on the website as well. So find the story of your college, right? And it must be linked with some movement for sure. The colleges which were established in 1950s or before that, they are somewhere linked to some kind of movements or some kind of objectives. So just read about that. Read when your college was established. I was asked these questions in a lot of interviews, right? In the IIM Indore interviews, I was asked when your college was established, when your university was established, which is the oldest university in the Delhi NCR. So I think JNU is the oldest, not sure, right? And then they asked me uh, in Delhi University, which is the oldest college, right? So these kind of random questions can also come up. So just be sure about that. College name, story, established university. Then hopefully you change the city for the college, right? You should know about that state and about that city. All the things that we have discussed earlier, you should know for your college city and college name, right? After that, let's say you most internship, I think you can ignore to an extent. But let's say if you're working in some or if you have some work ex and working in some company, you should know more about the company. So when I say more about the company, the CEO, right? Or let's say the CMO or CTO, whatever relevant persons are there, right? At least get their names right, right? And also read the history of your company. Again, you can go to Wikipedia. You will find a lot of things around your company at the Wikipedia page. Read the history. There may be some fraud cases, right? There may be some court cases against the company. There may be some good things about the company, right? So when you go to the Wikipedia, you will find all these things. See the valuation of your company. If not valuation, then revenue or revenue cost, right? Have a decent idea about all these things, right? Most of the candidates don't have a good idea about their company's objective. They know what they are doing, they know about their role, they know about their everyday workplace, right? But also know objectives, clients, competitors, and I would say different departments, right? Or different products that your company deals with, right? So, for example, let's say if you are a technical person or if you are a marketing guy, and most probably you might be working for 1 year or 2 years in the same role or in the same department, right? So sometimes it may also happen that the company is also dealing with 99 other things, right? So there can be questions that what all products your company have, or what is one star product that attracts or that gains the largest pie of the revenue, right? So be clear about all those things, right? Understood? Any doubts so far, right? So till this point, we questions for freshers. Questions for freshers? No, I mean, if you're a fresher, just ignore this part, right? You should be ready with this stuff, right? So till this point, we have covered the questions around you, right? So now we will also see a lot of questions around India, right? So whatever things we are going to discuss with the India, right? Maybe few of the things might be relevant for the state info, right? But when it comes to the state, I think if you know the things that we have listed here, I think you don't need to go beyond that until and unless there is some very famous event. For example, few minutes back, I had an interview with one candidate who comes from Prayagraj, right? So when you come from Prayagraj, you should know about Kumbh Mela. अंडरस्टूड. चल, ठीक है. इंडिया की बात करते हैं, राइट? सो व्हेन इट कम्स टू इंडिया, दिस इज योर कंट्री, राइट? सो फर्स्ट you should know the diversity, right? Diversity in terms of land. When I talk about the land area, right, you should also okay, let's ignore this. Wait. Yeah. So you should know about the land, you should know about the communities, you should know about the political history, you should know about the independence movements, right? You should also know about constitution. So there are endless things, but these are some of the things which are at top of my mind. But I'm pretty sure you can also add some of your inputs here, right? For example, rivers that flow from east to west, that flow from north to south, south to north, west to east. These kind of questions do not make a lot of sense to me, right? But I think if the colleges ask these questions, we have to prepare for these things as well, right? And then going back to our school days, you also must have read in a lot of classes about the largest river, longest river, highest mountain, and all that stuff. Just in case you have time, go through that part, right? But as a MBA aspirant, or let's say as a adult, I think the focus should be more on politics, political process, right? So a lot of you might not be even aware about the number of seats that we have in Rajya Sabha, the number of seats that we have in Lok Sabha. There are around some 12 or 13 seats reserved for the special people, right? Who are those special people currently in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, right? How the system works, how the election works, why the elections happen at different times in different states. So these are the kind of questions which should come up in your mind when you are thinking about one particular topic, right? When you're thinking about Indian political system, Indian history. So, for example, you should also know about civil wars or something, right? Or let's say, what should be the right word? Not wars, what it is called.
Activisms.
Sorry.
Activisms.
No, because what I remember, so for example, I come from Rajasthan, right? So I remember that I read three, four major wars or major wars between different communities, right? So, or let's say
Conflict.
if you come from a very particular state, you should, for example, again giving my example because I know well about my state, right? So there are different forts in Rajasthan, right? How those forts were established, who established all those forts. So you cannot answer or you cannot know about all the things at one point of time. For example, in my one of the interviews, they asked me ki who founded this fort in Udaipur, right? So I was not aware about who founded that fort, right? But I was very well aware about four other forts that were established in different cities. So I just turned around my question that I don't know about this particular fort, right? But I know that a lot of forts or naming the forts, that these are the reasons behind that, and these are the communities or these are the people who built these forts, right? And then again, the question should come up in your mind, right? Why those forts were established, why they are still protected, and all that stuff, right? So you cannot come up with a very layman answer कि इसीलिए protect किए गए हैं, right? So there must be some reason about that. Coming on to the India again, right? The wars, or let's say, wars, Kargil war is something. Then there was a war between India and China, right? And then inside India, if I talk about, uh, have a decent knowledge about the area and about the horizontal and vertical length. For example, if you move from JK to Kerala, right? How much kilometer it is? I think it is around 3,200 or something, and horizontally it is around 2,700 or 2,800. I need to check that. And these facts will also help you in your, let's say, if they ask you case studies, if they ask you guesstimates that we discussed, right? These kind of facts will also help you there as well, right? For example, again, sex ratio, right? Literacy rate, and then rankings, right? WordPress ranking, right? R- Poverty index, inflation, right? How inflation is calculated. Even if you are a non-economic student, non-commerce student, having a good knowledge about inflation, about GDP, right? And again, these topics should also make you curious ki how inflation is calculated, how government calculates, how government manages such large data, how GDP is calculated, right? So if you are from economics or BCom, right, these topics are definitely expected from you. You should be able to explain with the proper frameworks or with the proper techniques that are used. But let's say if you are an engineer or if you are from humanities background, right, it will just give you a lot of brownie points, right? Because there will be no breakage in your interview, right? The moment they ask you questions, you have some idea about the things, right? But let's say if you don't even know the political history of India, they will not have any choice. Then they will have to switch to some other area, right? And if they ask you some three, four things about the India rankings and all that stuff, and still if you don't have anything about that, again, this that does not reflect good on you. Next, Seven Sisters, if I'm not wrong, right? The eastern states, basically, right? You should know name of every state and capital, right? And CM to an extent, right? And there is a page of Indian cabinet ministers. I think you all should cram that page. Indian cabinet ministers or Indian cabinet or something like that. Let me just show you that page as well. So that page will have every information about all the ministers, Indian cabinet ministers, list of council of ministers or something. I think they have changed the page and turned into a PDF. Yeah, so now they are providing a PDF. So the PDF has 36 ministers, right? So for example, if I ask you who is the education minister, the answer should come very frequently, right? Within a second, you should be able to answer that, right? For example, if I just recall one of my uh, experience, right? My first interview was with IIM Kohinoor, right? So as soon as I entered the room, so basically it's a hotel room, right? It's always a hotel room, right? So you have to cover some distance. As soon as I opened the door, they asked me, okay, you are Pallav Goyal. Do you know Piyush Goyal? Right. So I just got a little confused, right? Who is Piyush Goyal? Right. At back of my mind, I know that Commerce Minister is Piyush Goyal, right? But when they asked me suddenly, right, I just got a little confused, and then they said, okay, there is one minister, right? Then I came up with the answer that yeah, that Piyush Goyal is our Commerce Minister, right? So if you are not able to come up with such answers, right, let's say at the start of the interview, even you will become nervous at some point, right? So that is the thing. Cabinet ministers should know, right? Then you should also know the roles and responsibilities, right? Roles and responsibilities. Not of every minister. Roles and responsibilities. Okay, right. But for sure of PM, president, difference between both the personalities, right? Who has the higher authority, right? And there can be some questions about who is the first, second, third PM or president, right? You should know the selection process, how the PM is selected, how the president is selected, right? Then again, some questions should come up in your mind like why some countries don't have PM, right? So these are like questions. So there is very low probability that all of these questions are asked, but definitely if they ask static questions, I think they should, or if you are aware about these questions, you will be confident, and there will be few questions from these areas, right? Then there are, if I talk about India, right, there are different kind of organizations, right? For example, uh, which is our this intelligence organization that provides intelligence, RO or something. I kind of don't remember that. Uh, RO, right? So you should maybe just read about that. Then what other organizations we have, or maybe the schemes. There was some health related scheme started by PM, right? Uh, Ayushman Bharat or something, right? Ayushman Bharat, right? Then okay, you guys tell me. So planning commission name was changed, right? So planning commission name was changed to what? So you all must have read about planning commission, right? Yeah, Niti Aayog. Right? So you should know about these organizations, right? Then election commission, right? How election commissioner is selected. There is a lot of noise around that. There is a lot of noise around uh, the elections being rigged, right? So you should also know about all these things. Right? This is not a complete list, but yeah, on an everyday basis, just create a document and keep filling the information there, right? Uh, Not just by Modi. I think three persons are involved. One from opposition party, two from the ruling party. Not sure, right? Then at world level, right? What are some of the main organization? UN. World Bank, then IMF. Then what is the difference between World Bank and IMF? Right, UN. Then at world level, we have some regular meetings with a lot of nations, right? Asian is one name, right? Then G20, something like this happened, right? Uh, BRICS, yeah, right. So just don't know. Just have basic details about these organizations, right? So if you just note down three relevant points and read it every day, I think you will be sorted, right? Let's say for climate, for poverty, right? What all other things do we have, right? Then maybe if you can. So there are some basic questions asked in past, like uh, if we have to solve the poverty problem, right? Why we cannot print a lot of money and then distribute it among all the citizens, right? So sounds like a silly question for the ones who know the answer, but can really confuse the people who don't know the reason, right? So also know more about why or what's the answer, right? And also know why, right? Why behind everything that you cover, that you say, right? Then river state, something which is of least priority. But in past they have asked these kind of questions as well. What else? Hmm. Okay, just give me. Then there are national and regional parties, right? So there are some parties which are very famous in state, right? But those parties are regional parties. They cannot fight an election at a national level, right? So what's the difference between national and regional parties, right? You have to go through that, right? What's the conditions? Again, when it comes to the condition, what's the condition for contesting an election, right? All those stuff should come up, right? Uh, Home Minister, that's fine. Mm, mm, yeah. Then read more about the neighbor countries, right? I think uh, we maintain a strong relation with all the neighbor countries. With some countries, we have relations on a negative connotation. With some countries, we have relation on a positive side, right? But the quantum is strong, right? For example, if I talk about Pakistan, uh, we have been involved in a lot of things with the Pakistan. If I talk about China, if I talk about Bangladesh, right? And then you should also read about, I think India became the most populous country or something like that, or the birth rate has increased or something has happened where we replace the China, right? So India versus China would for sure give you good brownie points if you know the history. And when it comes to the history, read about the wars and read about the growth, right? So I think at one point of time, the GDP of India, right, was quite similar to the GDP of China. But then as the time progressed, decade over decade, the China took over, right? What happened? Why it happened? What's the reason? Right? Then some questions, let's say, why every country needs or adapts for the, or let's say accepts the US dollars, right? Why? Then what else? So that is a part of current affair, right? Venezuela or Iran or something like that. History, I think history of those nations are not needed. But just in case, let's say if that is relevant at some point, specifically they will not ask the history of those nations, right? But in case if you can chip in and if you can just uh, sound smarter there by introducing the history topic. Maybe that can help you, right? But only include those points if necessary or if relevant, right? Just don't include for the sake of inclusion. I think I have shared the link with the batch people now. Right. Vandana, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Just want to confirm. Okay, okay. So that means you all have received the link, right? So after this, I think static GK should be sorted for you, right? Just in case, let's say, whatever comes to your mind. For example, a lot of static GK, I would not say static GK. For example, if I ask you when your college was established or what's the mission of your college or how your college got that particular name, right? So the best way to do this activity is go through the 10 HR SOP questions listed in task 1, right? And just go through the answers that you have written for them, right? And find all the relevant words and read about that, right? So whenever you are mentioning that I work in this company, I'm interested in this, I went to this, I lived in this city, right? Just track all the touch points and read more about them, right? And just for the research purpose as well, I would say just go to the Wikipedia, search there, you will find everything, right? And then if you can just read more about uh, famous people or let's say famous movements, right? Again, not as relevant, right? But recently, if something has happened, right, or let's say in the last 10 to 15 years, maybe you should know about that as well. For example, demonetization, right? So demonetization may again, not having any knowledge about demonetization or just sounding like a layman person कि सर नोट्स को बंद कर दिया था बच्चे मर गए थे ये हो गया था वो हो गया था no, right? Because the event it's been I think more than 5 years for sure, right? You should come up with some very concrete facts about that or very concrete viewpoints, right? So I think yeah, I will cover that, Shobit. I think that I have listed down in the Excel sheet. But yeah, let me cover that as well. So these are some of the things which you should cover. I would say 3 days before your interview. 3 days before the interview, right? For example, let's say you are going for IIM Lucknow. Fine. अरे यार IIM Lucknow. IIM Kozhikode के लिए तो I think I have uploaded one reel. I have told you what they expect. So basically, IIM Kozhikode expects a lot of things when it comes to their interview. Don't know why, right? But let's say for other colleges, the relevant or the part which will not change. So this is, let's say, irrespective of the college name. So here I can just say I am, if you are going for any I am XYZ or B school, any B school, right? Uh, First thing is visit their website. So this is very important, right? Read about the mission, vision, values, right? In most of the cases, if you just know the values or mission, that's also okay, right? Then director of the college. Then let's say clubs, right? Right, clubs, committees. Okay, I don't know how it is written, but let's say committees, clubs, committees. Then you will find some glamorous facts about the college. Just go through that, right? It should be the good facts only if they are posting it on their website. Then know the recruiters. I think some things are not working. Recruiters, right? So in the recruiters, I would suggest you to not go that deep. I mean, go that deep, but don't mention it explicitly in the interview, right? Just in case they ask, so that you should, so just read about that so that you should know, just in case they ask you about these things. Recruiters or the kind of roles that come to the college, right? But generally, the professors are not interested in recruiters part. Then uh, there must be some, there must be some uh, this social activities, what that CSR activities, right? Uh, just read if there is something related to that. Then Google the college name, right? And just go to the news section, right? So if you can just get some news, or maybe some professor of that college has achieved something, or some student has achieved something exceptional, I think that would also be a good point. What else? Yeah, just go through the year one and year two curriculum, right? So again, not expected at a great length, but if you just know the subjects, right, then again would be helpful for all of you, right? Curriculum. The point is that let's say if you don't know the curriculum, and in case they ask you the subjects or something like that, and then in that case, because in the B schools, right, the subject names are little bit different. You will not have any subject called finance. You will not have any subjects called consulting, right? But there may be a case where you end up speaking something like this, and then that shows that you really don't know about these things, or you are not well prepared, right? So read about the curriculum, and I would say go beyond your domains. So what do I mean by this is that there are a lot of behavioral subjects. For example, when it comes to IIM Ahmedabad, we have classes on Bhagavad Gita, right? We have classes on individual behavior, organizational behavior. So such subjects are also there. So if you just speak about those subjects as well, again, it will show you that you are prepared, you know something uh, beyond what a layman person would say about MBA, right? So MBA is not just about finance, strategy, operation, consulting, right? There are a lot of 100 other subjects, right? There are subjects related to math, statistics, behavioral, communication, marketing, all that stuff, right? So read more about that. I think that's it, if I'm not missing anything major. Mission, vision, clubs, committees, facts, recruiters, role, Google. Yeah, I think should be more than enough, right? Pretty hard to remember all these things, but if you just read about that for 15-20 minutes twice a day for the straight 3 days, I think you will not miss on any of these. Just let me check if I'm missing on something. Uh, any major doubts that you guys have? Just put it in the chat box if you have any doubts. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, if some colleges like IIM Mumbai provides work weightage, do fresh. No, no, the work weightage is just like a input to the mathematical formula for your CS. How do we make sure we don't get overwhelmed? Seems like we have a lot to cover. Janvi, I mean, my tip would be to just create a Google Word document for everything that you go through on an everyday basis, right? For example, even if it's a news, right? Uh, so there are two kinds of things attached to every news. First is the things which I can talk about even when I am sleeping, right? For example, if you talk about USA and the current ongoing situation, I can talk about that why USA has done that, right? USA wants to capture a country which has high proven oil reserves, right? Venezuela has a around 20% of the global supply, but still contributes around 0.1% and all that thing. If I can remember, if I already know these things, then I don't have to create notes for that. Then there will be some special kind of facts which currently I don't know, but as a student, I find them helpful, and I feel that if I add these facts, it will give me brownie points. Then just start creating a Google Doc of those facts, right? And same with the static gk mein the point is, first, it will feel overwhelmed, because in your life you must not have ever read about the wars, you must not have ever read about the war history of your state, history of your school, right? But slowly and slowly, if you just go through or run through for 5 to 10 minutes on a daily basis, right, at some point of time you will become comfortable, right? For example, at the start of your preparation, you may not know who founded your college or when your college was established. But if you read that thing 5 times over 5 days, on the sixth day, you will be ready to answer why your college was established, what's the vision of your college, right? Same goes with the powers of president, power of prime minister. And you have to be aware of the fact that you are not going to speak about the powers of president and power of prime minister for 5 minutes, right? In case they ask you questions, and if you have 3 or 4 solid points about the difference, about the powers of PM, powers of presidents, how they are different, I think you do a great job at that point of time, right? And then again, same with the election process. You are not going to speak for 10 minutes. You will have very limited chance. You will have very limited time to speak about. Then again, the same thing. Anything else? Or let's close the session, because we have a session at 10:30 for IIM Bangalore. And I think you all should attend that session, because it will help you somewhere in framing the HR SOP questions in the right manner, right? And second thing is, there will be some forms that you are still going to fill, let's say for IIM Shillong, where they ask you for a detailed explanation of something, right? So just attend that session, right? Second is, also clear up your queries about the SOP, about the structure, about the length, about the things that you should put it out. Don't make a generic SOP, right? The one mistake that I find in a lot of answers that you speak or write is that you make it way too generic. For example, if I ask you, why do you want to do MBA, right? You don't need to tell me finance, operation, consulting. Just give me two reasons. Why do you want to MBA, right? Why do you want to do MBA? Then second point is, if I ask you, let's say, there are very, let's say, why as a fresher, why not get some work X, right? Then also again, don't put very generic points. I was going through some bits on questions today of some candidate, right? So there they asked your motivation behind joining the MBA course or something like that. There was a question, right? Or yeah, there was a question about what's your biggest accomplishment or failure, right? So when they are asking your, you have to tell your part. Don't explain. So that candidate mentioned badminton as an example. Then don't explain what is badminton, what you learned out of it. No, first explain why badminton is a reason behind your failure or behind your success, because they are interested in you. If you just throw some random generic answers to them, right, they will listen to them, right? Or maybe at some point of time they may lose the patience, right? But the major point is create a hook, create an interesting story so that they listen to that with patience till the end, right? And then you will be awarded accordingly, right? So best of luck for your GDPA preparation. Let's meet quickly at 10:30 for IIM Bangalore SOP session. Okay, bye bye.